What's up, guys? Tony Hannity's here from LazyTechGuys.com, and welcome to another episode of LTG Mobile Moments. Episode is recorded on April 28th, 2015. Normally on a Tuesday night we do an LTG show, but due to the fact that my co-host and actually rather main host of the show, Sean Wilburn, is in the midst of moving, we decided to go ahead and do an LTG Mobile Moments instead. And I just got back from the Twit Brick House, where I was joined by the likes of Miriam Jouar, Jason Howell, and Ron Richards on the infamous show All That Android. And I've got to say, it was a ton of fun. I always have fun doing it. I believe it's I want to say it's my fourth or fifth time doing the show since I guest hosted maybe once a year since 2012. So well, I guess that would mean I would have had to guest host twice a year in one of those years. But in any event, one main reason why going to today's show in the studio was such an amazing treat, well, there's many reasons, but one main reason was the fact that Miriam Jouar, Tank Girl, had in hand two LG G4s. So today, LG finally unleashed all the information about the G4, and pretty much everything we knew about it was already on par. LG didn't really do any favors for themselves, because all of their promo videos pretty much talked about all the really high-end specs of the phone and talked about a lot of the main talking points of the phone. But just going over the quick specifications of this device, you're looking at a 5.5-inch QHD display at 2560 by 1440. The display itself is using LG's brand new Quantum IPS display, so that's their Quantum Dot display. And for them, they're quoting that this is the best mobile display that is in the wild right now. What's really nice about it is that it, what did they say here? Where'd it go? Here we go. 25% brighter with 50% better contrast and 20% better color accuracy. And it's 11% better in regards to power efficiency over their G3 screen that came out last year. Now, when you put the G4 side by side to the G3, you're not really going to see a lot of differences physically. And it's interesting that the majority of the press that have seen this are okay with it. I mean, when people saw the HTC M9 against the HTC M8, there was a lot of uproar. A lot of people were wondering, why didn't HTC do a complete whole new redesign? It looks so much like the M8 and yada yada yada. LG came out with the G4, and maybe it was because we had already seen a lot of the leaked pictures that were true weeks in advance, that when LG finally unveiled it on stage, it's like, okay, that looks really nice. In any event, other specifications on this, it's using a Qualcomm 80, is it the 808 or the 805 processor? God, I thought I had this listed here. Qualcomm 808 processor, I apologize. It's kind of a simmered down version to the 810 processor. The 810 processor, which came in the LG Flex 2, apparently there was some power and overheating issues with that, so they went to the 808 processor, 3 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigabytes of internal storage, a 3000 milliamp battery, which is fully removable, as is the SD card, because the battery doors do come off. And that is one of the key things about this, the fact that depending on which battery back that you want, you can choose from your standard plastic back, or you can even have a leather back. And in the studio, Miriam brought both the plastic and leather back G4s. And I've got to say, I'm not a huge fan of leather. I mean, it looked okay on the Moto X, but this looks really, really nice. I mean, apparently it took 3 months to tan the leather properly. They used vegetable tanning. And obviously, if you're not a big fan of leather, then that backing is not for you. There's no quote on how much it's going to cost once it hits the United States, and unfortunately, there's no Qi charging through the leather, nor is there Qi charging through the plastic backs that they have. However, um, there are the folio cases that you can buy from LG that do support the Qi charging. If you remember the circle view cases that they had for the G3, they're going to be selling that as well for the G4 or something similar to that. And I'm sure there's going to be other third-party OEMs, or a company like Tilt will be able to make something like the ViewMate, which we reviewed for the Galaxy S5. I'm sure they'll be able to do something as well for that to happen. So you won't necessarily have to buy the OEM folio back from LG if you'd rather not. Other things about this camera, or rather, I'll get to the camera, but other things about this phone is it's very lightweight. The operating system is also very lightweight. I think there's a total of like 12 bloatware apps from LG, and they're not really bloatware. It's really apps that you would probably use. I think the only app that I may or may not use is S-Memo, because I really use like OneNote and Google Keep for the most part. But the nice thing about is it S-Memo or is it just LG Memo? Maybe it's just LG Memo. S-Memo would be Samsung. But the memo pad capability is that you can write on the screen of whatever that you're looking at, so it automatically takes a screenshot and you can annotate it and send that off as a text message or Instagram message or whatever the case is. So that's kind of part of the quick action launcher with one of the two buttons on the back. Also, a new feature with the lower button on the back. Without having to launch the camera, you can just double tap the lower button of the volume rocker, and whatever you're pointing the camera to, it'll automatically take a picture. It'll be, it'll be focused. It'll obviously give you the opportunity to retake it, but the initial picture that you take, it actually comes out pretty well. We didn't get a chance to take any kind of action shots, so I don't know how blurry it is. But if it's just a quick, like, oh, look at that, really beautiful scenery over there, you don't have to pull out your phone, unlock it. You just double tap the button on the back and it just takes the picture right away. Similarly, with the Galaxy S6, you can double tap the home screen and that launches the camera, but it doesn't take the picture. So, if we're comparing the quickness of the camera of instant shots, the LG G4 wins just because of the lower amount of steps that you have to take to initiate the photo. Now, the camera itself is pretty spectacular. They have a 16 megapixel sensor, the brighter f1.8 lens, improved OIS, which is optical image stabilization. They have the same laser pointer for focus. They have the same LED flash, but a new feature called CSS, or color spectrum sensor. So the way that this works is basically a more accurate color sensor for color and white balance. It uses I believe they said satellite imagery. So when you're pointing at like an apple, it's going to recognize the reds more than anything else. And so it's not going to be like a washed out red. It will be the actual color red that you're expecting the red apple to come out as. If you're pointing it at blades of grass, it's going to look green like blades of grass are supposed to be. So the photos are supposed to be more realistic and less saturated, like some of the other panels and photo apps that are out there, like what you might find from Samsung. So we didn't really get a chance to sit down and do color tests between the S6 and the LG G4 in the studio, but I'm sure there's a lot of you guys out there that have the opportunity to look at the two phones side by side and see which photo comes out more realistic than the other. So keep an eye out on YouTube for that, for some of the other guys that are out there. You can now have manual controls, which include shutter speed, which you don't get from the Samsung S6 or S6 Edge. You can control white balance, ISO, and raw image capturing. So that is one of the most advanced stock cameras that I've seen to date. And it's a really nice UI. Overall, LG's UI is pretty light, as I had mentioned, and it's very material design esque, if you will. And if you don't like it, you could throw another launcher on there, like the Google Now launcher or Nova or something like that. But for what it is, stock, well, LG stock, if you will, it's a really nice phone. So I'm gonna get in contact with LG. Hopefully, they'll be able to send one to me on Verizon so I can test it out on my personal network. But whatever they send my way, it's fine. The nice thing too is it's going to come to the United States within the next month or so. I believe it starts a launch in South Korea tomorrow, and it will be running out of the box Android 5.1, and it will have the Google Chrome browser instead of the LG browser. But apparently, according to The Verge, the demo that they tested had both Chrome and the LG browser, so it might be carrier dependent. It will come with 2 years of 100 gigabytes free from Google Drive. And yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I know last year, if you've been following us for a while, last year I said I am getting the G3. And then something happened. I did something that I promised myself I would never do, which was I'm going to wait. And the problem with I'm going to wait is that there's always a new device around the corner. And then after that, there's always another device around the corner. So now that I'm in contact with LG directly, hopefully I'll get better information with and better ability to do some testing instead of trying to buy it myself. But yeah, we'll definitely keep in contact regarding that. Now, also in Android news, Ouya is reportedly seeking a buyer because they're not making any money. I mean, realistically, Ouya started off super strong with Kickstarter. I mean, it was the first of its kind. $100 Android console where you could play Android games, dedicated games for the Ouya with their, great, gaming controller and very low cost entry if you're a college student and you still want to play games but you don't want to spend $200-300 on a standard console. This was kind of the other option for you. And Ouya and their company, they promised so much that there would be myriad of games, great games like AAA games for mobile or for Android, if you will. And if you don't know, Ouya doesn't have, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Ouya doesn't have Google Play services, so they don't have the Play Store. So you can't go and say, oh, well, I'll just go ahead and download all these games that I would normally have on my tablet or my phone, and I can play them on Ouya. That's not the case. A developer has to make an app specifically for the Ouya platform, and for whatever reason, as much as it started off like a rocket, it started to sputter like really quickly, and that was because of like updates and just developers in general, just whatever they thought that they were going to develop for Ouya, they just never did. And then Ouya didn't really seek out developers and try to coax them to really improve the system and the ecosystem. So now they want to sell. So who could they sell to? I mean, with Android TV now and all these other boxes that have gaming capabilities, like the Razer, I want to say the Razer Edge, but there's the Razer box. There's NVIDIA has their own Android TV box with gaming capabilities. I mean, the thing with Ouya was it was a gaming console. That's all it was. They didn't try to be anything else, which to their credit is probably a good thing. But they got in so early and so quickly, and they didn't know what to do that they fell flat on their face. And now that Google's kind of picked up the slack and said, hey, we'll do the same thing, but all the games will be available through Google Play. Now, granted, Android TV just hasn't really picked up either, not to the extent that they were kind of hoping. And I put a lot of that blame on the Nexus player. I mean, again, $100 for an Android TV set-top box with gaming capability, but no one really took advantage of it. Plus, the hardware was very lacking in specifications. And then we have all these other companies like Razer coming out with their own, a lot better, a little bit more expensive, but well worth the money. So hopefully from an Android TV standpoint, we'll start to see some more development in that realm. But for Ouya, maybe it would make more sense for Google to buy them so they take them under their wing, you know, probably get rid of the whole company and just hire all the developers within it and, ingest them into the Android team, if you will. Or it could be another company like Roku or Sling TV. I mean, who knows? I'm sure Ouya has some sort of IP patent, something that is very sought after. And I'm going off kind of conjecturally, like I don't have any definitive saying, yes, this is their golden ticket. I have no idea if they have a golden ticket, but if they did, it might be in the best interest of a company like Roku or Sling TV to take advantage of that because they are slowly but surely being overtaken by things like the Chromecast and all these other inexpensive set-top box alternatives. So if they have the ability to have better gaming experiences and something that makes it a lot easier for developers to develop for the system just because the infrastructure is a lot better, it might bring back Ouya back in the forefront like it was when it was still in crowdfunding. But until then, just like we kind of played taps for them, but uh, I'm not excited to see what happens for them, but I wish them all the best. That's all I can say about that. Now, if you're a fan of Google Now, as I am, Google announced today that Google Now on Android will have 70 new partners, which would allow you to view app information right from your Google Now page. So to give you an idea of who to expect that you might start seeing popping up in your Google Now stream, Runkeeper, Jawbone, Adidas, Eat24, ABC News, Circa, Feedly, OpenTable, Waze. I mean, we've got a ton of companies that majority of us do use on a regular basis, but if we were to want to access that application to get updates, well, then we will go directly to the application. Now Google is trying to make you get all the pertinent updates right from your Google Now stream, which makes sense. I mean, the more that you use the Google Now stream, the more Google learns about you. So if you were to use Runtastic and that was the first thing that you opened up every morning, maybe Google would say, okay, this person's really interested in fitness, and maybe we could somehow update them on some new features within Google Fit, or recommend another application that is more for calorie counting or something like that, so they could benefit off of ad revenue or the app sale or whatever the case may be. Also, from a consumer standpoint, I saw the whole list of these 70 applications, and there were a few apps I have never even heard of, nor would I have normally thought to download them. But just because they have a Google Now card integration, I might take a second look at some of the apps. Like, oh, I never thought I would ever use Eat24 because I thought in my area there wasn't any restaurant that used Eat24 as part as their ordering services. But now that I found maybe one or two, I might use that as far as my Google Now stream. Or something like Runtastic. Well, I don't run, I lift weights, but you get the idea. It is kind of a discovery tool, and I don't know if Google had that in mind, but it definitely was a discovery tool for me. Now, going over to Apple, we all know that they are doing phenomenally well when it comes to their overall revenue. And with the future of Apple Watch, we have no definitive idea of how well, how bad, or how good it's going to be 6 months from now. But what we do know is that there was a tiny little mishap that happened last week. Now, I'm not quite sure what the application was called, but it was something that had to deal with or rather, it had a feature that was Pebble Watch compliant. So if you had a Pebble Watch, you would be able to use this app and get notifications and updates on your Pebble Watch. Now, for whatever reason, Apple says that they actually removed it from the App Store, or rather declined their application to be as a part of the App Store, but that was a mistake. They're not trying to kill out the competition and force people to get Apple Watch, which is a good thing. This is probably an oversight. But what they won't let you do is create your own watch faces. Apple has confirmed today that it will reject all Apple Watch apps that just tell time. So if that's all your app does, then don't even bother writing an app. And for me, like, I use the example of the Moto 360 or the G Watch R or the LG Urbane. What, LG Watch Urbane? I don't know. I mean, because it has a nice round face. When I had the Moto 360, one of the first of watch faces that I downloaded was the Doctor Who Gallifreyan pocket watch kind of design, because I'm a big Doctor Who fan. Now, if I had an Apple Watch, I wouldn't be able to do that until Apple decides to make their own, which probably isn't going to happen. But I don't know how you guys feel about this. They say if your watch only tells time, it's going to be denied. So all you got to do is make your watch do other things than just tell time. Maybe it could tell time, but also be a unique calculator, or it could do something. I really don't know what else it could do. So you don't get your app removed or denied from the App Store. But just be forewarned, if that's all you're planning on doing, plan to do something else. Now, tomorrow is the start of the Microsoft Build Developers Conference. This is a developer conference that happens every year in San Francisco, and it's probably one of the most exciting times for Microsoft because we have Windows 10 coming to the public right around the corner. There's a lot of questions that haven't been answered, and one of the first ones is, when is Windows 10 coming out? I mean, we know a vague time frame. The CEO of AMD, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but I guess by accident, blurted out something about Windows 10 being available in July, which kind of makes sense with the whole back to school situation. And we aren't quite sure if that was talking about the timing for RTM or actually going to the consumers. But we do know it's sometime this summer. So maybe tomorrow we'll find out an actual date, like August 3rd is when it's coming out. Okay, everyone mark your calendar, and then do the update the week after, so the servers aren't too bogged down. Also, I have a lot of questions with HoloLens. I mean, the HoloLens API or Holo API or whatever it is baked into Windows 10. Now that we know that, what else are we gonna see from that? Are we gonna see some demonstrations other than the little wraparound frame lenses on stage? Are we gonna see people using that as a part of the phone, as a part of Surface 3? Also, what's going on with mobile? The fact of the matter is Windows Phone is probably the third largest and third most popular operating system that's out there behind Android and iOS. And that's all well and good, but there's really only 4 major phone operating systems. And to say that you're the third, that's not really saying much. And there have been rumors, according to Thurrott.com, that Microsoft might give developers of Android apps the ability to run their Android apps in, I would imagine, kind of like a virtual environment like they do on BlackBerry on Windows Phone. And that's all great. That's wonderful. And that makes it easier for people like me to say, okay, you can go to Windows and hopefully soon you'll have the real Instagram. Not Instagram beta, the real Instagram or the real whatever app. You'll get Google Maps now. Now, I don't think we're going to get any kind of official Google app. I'm just using Google Maps as an example. But this doesn't really prove or show a lot of faith in Windows Phone. What it does is it's an answer to not just developers, but the consumers that have been clamoring for some apps like Snapchat, for example. It's like, I really want Snapchat on Windows Phone, and Snapchat removed all the ability to use their third-party API, so I'm kind of screwed on Windows Phone. Now, if they allow Android apps on Windows Phone, I could feasibly get Snapchat back officially on my Windows Phone. But if you're going to go through all that, there's not a lot of reason to get a Windows Phone. Now, um, putting everything on the table, I do work for Microsoft. So all of this is my own after hours input opinion, and does not reflect anything that Microsoft has said, will say, or has opinion of. But personally, I really do like Windows Phone. I think that it brings something a little bit different to the table, especially with regard to how that you use it. The update to Windows 8.1 with Cortana has been very, very well received. And I can't wait to see some of the improvements that Windows 10 is going to be bringing to the phone. But there needs to be something. Microsoft needs to do something to make Windows best. It might be that Android and iOS applications roll out first, and we're already seeing that. But when it finally gets to Windows, it needs to be better. So for example, you can do Office on iOS, Android, and Windows Phone. And for the most part, the applications across iOS, Android, and Windows Phone are the same application. In fact, for a long time, the apps were actually better than they were on Windows Phone. You could get a better experience if you had an Android or an iOS device. They've such recently updated the Windows Phone app, so hopefully it's along par with the competitors, but they're not showing a lot of reasoning to me as to why you would want to stay with Windows Phone. Now, if you're invested in the ecosystem and you're used to it, that's one thing. But if you're a brand new user, then obviously if the sales rep says, well, this is Windows Phone, if you have a Windows computer, it'll talk to the Windows Phone a lot better, especially with Windows 10. You'll have a complete circulation of the notifications. So no matter what platform you're on, desktop, laptop, tablet, phone, you'll get all of your pertinent notifications. Oh, and now there's the ability to run Android applications. The whole notification thing might not be such of an importance to you. The whole universal app capability where a developer can write an app once, and with a few quick lines of code change, that app would be optimized for tablet and desktop and laptop and phone. But again, to a consumer, they don't care about that. They just want the apps to work on the device that they have. And at the end of the day, even if Android apps are available for Windows Phone, that doesn't mean that all developers are going to take advantage of that. So I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. Hopefully we'll hear a little bit more about that tomorrow. But it's just interesting to see kind of how Microsoft has changed pace at, we want to be the best, we want to be the first, to, okay, we're not going to win this fight, not right now. So let's work with our competitors to a certain degree, and we're going to make our own apps for some of these features, but the apps are going to run the best on our own operating system. And up until now, that hasn't been the case. Outlook.com is obviously much better. I believe there's a preview app for Windows 8.1 on Windows 10 phone. It runs really nicely. But the Android and iOS apps, they run just as well, if not better. So I think at the end of the day, a lot of us are really just waiting for that flagship phone. I doubt we're going to get an announcement of any kind of hardware tomorrow. We're already waiting on Surface 3 to come out on May 5th. But so I would say my top three things that I'm waiting to get a definitive answer on are what's going on with Windows 10, what's the release date, what's going on with HoloLens, and what's going on with Android on Windows Phone. So if you have any insight into that, or if you thought of anything, having Android on Windows Phone is a really good thing? If it and would it make you stay with Windows, or would you just say, well, if you're going to put Android on Windows, I might just go to Android? Let us know. Comments at lazytechguys.com. We can hit us up on Twitter at LTG Tony. So that is pretty much it. If you're going to watch Build live, you can go to, I believe it's like build.com, or I forget what the actual URL is. You can look it up on Twitter. They're going to be live streaming from 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Honestly, I'll probably still be asleep next to my daughter, but I'm going to try to live stream it as long as she lets me, because she's a little rambunctious and deserves my full attention. But she wants to nerd out and learn a little bit more about development. I'm all for it. You can always find me on Twitter at LTG Tony, or here on Google Plus, Tony Hannity's. I don't know if you can tell by my eyes, but I'm very drowsy right now. So I'm probably going to hit the hay sooner than I expected. Still need to eat, though. If you want to have any other questions or comments, hit me up those ways. I am still giving away this. This is the UAG Urban Armor Gear case for the Nexus 6. So I'm still giving it away. All you got to do is hit me up on Twitter, LTG Tony, and find out how to win it. And it's honestly super duper simple. And I hope I can get it out of my drawers sooner than later. Otherwise, I'm just going to leave it at the store and just walk away, and some person's going to have a free case. All right, well, that's it from me. Thank you very much for joining, and I will talk to you guys very, very soon. Bye.